working. Okay, we're live and recording, so I'm just going to make sure that it hits on the YouTubes. Yep. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. Good evening. Good evening. I don't think we have anybody watching yet, but that's fine.
Oh.
So
We're good. We're good.
it's all good. It's all good. We're gonna have a chat, even if it's up. We got viewers. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Good evening to this this April edition of the Changemakers live stream show from Neon One. I have our guests here today, Cynetra Freeman from Mississippi Center for Reentry and Michael Farb. And tonight's live stream, as usual, is brought to you by Switcher Studio. Thank you for your support to make this look good. We are from Neon One, a technology and services company serving over 35,000 organizations like Cynetra. So, all right, we're going to kind of kick into it today. The theme, by the way, folks, and let me just get our little logo in the corner there.
Tim, I didn't know we had sponsors. This is great.
I mean, let's be real, Michael. The sponsor is the fact that I knew that it would take forever to get budget approval for the Switcher Studio license. So I said, "Can you give it to me for free?" And I'll say that you're the sponsor.
Beautiful, great deal, right there.
You gotta hustle, man. You gotta hustle. So
hustling. That's
I wanted it. I wanted it.
Yeah.
I wanted it too bad. And you know, it's sometimes I just got to be creative about how we bring things about. That's why you pay me the big bucks. So. Yeah, no, this is great. And actually, we do have sponsors coming up because Generosity Exchange is coming up, which Cynetra, let's actually hear a little bit of, let's do some introductions. I got connected with you because you've been using us for a little bit for things, but you know, we got connected at Generosity Exchange, the Neon virtual conference. It's going to be virtual again this year, but then with hopes of being in person in 2022. So, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about you know, your organization, and then we can kind of chat a little bit about how we actually, you and I personally connected, because it's you know, a friendly, you know, a very friendly working relationship has evolved from that, so.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'm Cynetra Freeman. I'm originally from Florida. I moved to Mississippi about in Christmas Eve of 2012. I started this organization because I was formerly incarcerated in 2010, and I saw how hard it was for individuals such as myself to get released and not have those resources available to them to help them to release, you know, to get reintegrate themselves back into society.
Mm-hmm.
So I just started this organization. I started in April 21st, made 4 years for us. Yay! In 2017. So I'm so excited about all the different things that we're doing, what we have done. Yeah, we're just getting tugged on here from a lot of different people. So I have to kind of make sure, you know, I don't put too much strain on myself and going in all these different areas because everybody's wanting, you know, our services and stuff. So yeah, I love Generosity Exchange. I would like to make sure I attend again this year. Even though I
Oh,
won't be doing-
we'll make sure of that. Don't worry about that. That's a guarantee. And so actually, and I was just telling Michael this before we signed on. So Cynetra had applied. We put out I came out with this random idea. I'm like, we're going to do a Pekakucha competition. If you don't know what Pekakucha is, folks, it's you basically have like a set amount of time to tell a story only through like visual slides. No words, it's just pictures. And then, you know, and then it hits. And then look, and I had never run any of this. I basically, as Michael can attest to, I just came up with a random idea, and then it was like I guess I got to go figure out how to do it. And so, such as I'm going to start a live stream show. How am I going to do it? So we put out a call for people to apply to just be part of it, because they can win money from our sponsor of that session, Charity Dynamics. And I remember explicitly, Cynetra, when I saw your application, because I was like, wow, like this is a really interesting organization. Like, this is fascinating. I want to make sure that we hear their story and hear your story. We did. So who won that competition, by the way, Cynetra?
I mean, of course, I did,
All right, bravo.
So and so I want to make sure, we can definitely unpack a bunch of different stuff, but I want to make sure we also introduce our other guest tonight, Michael Farb, CEO of Neon One, our fearless leader over here. So, Michael, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell the crowd of more than one person is now watching the stream
All
at
right.
this point. So,
somewhere between 1 and 1 million people
exactly,
are watching.
exactly. I'm hitting those KPIs for you. So,
First off, Cynetra, congrats. That's so cool on the anniversary. It's such an amazing accomplishment to launch, let alone, be driving impact for that long, and a bright future ahead. So I'm really psyched for you and excited to chat with you. Yeah, so definitely less impressive than Cynetra here, but I oversee Neon One. My background is kind of a mix of entrepreneurship, technology, mixed with just a real big passion for helping nonprofits. Been volunteering as the topic of the day, since I was a kid, and we'll probably dive into that. But then started joining the boards of a couple organizations, and just looked at the tools and resources available and thought, maybe there's a better way, and maybe there's better things that we can do to better support amazing organizations like yours, and 35,000 others. So it's been a kind of a dream of a job matching what I get to do on my day job with my passion, as I know Tim can attest to as well. Many of us share that. And we're just excited to be doing this, and I'm happy to be here. So psyched for the conversation. Thanks for inviting me.
So as Michael mentioned, kind of folks, it was National Volunteer Week earlier this month, and so we're coming to the tail end of April, and we wanted to kind of end the month with this stream to talk about all the different ways that people might interact and think about volunteering and the importance of volunteering. Because when I was at my I always remember this, and it's hilarious because it was so mind-blowing to hear this at the time, but it turns out that it's an industry cliche, the term time, talent, and treasure. Because I was at my Catholic school, and we would where I worked right before coming to Neon, but right before 10 years ago, coming up in November. And the Nat would always talk about, our head of schools would always talk about, like, the importance of time, talent, and treasure. And it would be talking that money wasn't the only thing that people want to do. And so that, I think, is an important point, because there's a lot of emotional labor that goes into the work. There's a lot of mental energy that goes into the work that can't be quantified through money alone. And volunteers best represent that. They're going to show up. They're gonna do things that maybe outside of the scope of what they even showed up to do sometimes. So Cynetra, I kind of want to kick it over to you first to hear about how I'm going to put you on the spot first.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
It's important to hear from, like, an actual nonprofit first. Like, Michael and I can talk about things, but I think it's more important to hear from you. And so tell us about how you work with volunteers right now, the different types of volunteers, and how you even find volunteers for your organization. Just the basics.
No pressure. Okay.
No pressure.
So actually, I have a AmeriCorps Vista grant. So, and if you don't know what that is, that's basically people who are volunteers, and they come and serve at different nonprofit organizations. They do get, health benefits, a stipend, that sort of thing. So I'm going in my third year with that in
That's great.
September, actually. That was actually one of my first grants that I received. And what they do is they just help push the mission of the organization, whether it's public relations, communications, social media, um, finding grant funds or fundraising. And also I've added doing employer partnerships, finding employers that are willing to hire these individuals. And we've been doing really, really good with that. And then outside of that, I have some college students that will come through that's wanting to get some experience, or wanting to learn more about the reentry section. So what they will do is they will go with me inside the jails, in prisons before COVID. But so yeah, they will go in there with me and they will just basically sit. They wouldn't actually do too much, but they would just kind of monitor and maybe do some paperwork or something for me. But yeah, that's how I utilize volunteers.
And that actually might be interesting to even unpack and reel back a little bit more. You had mentioned getting pulled in different directions and resources and things like that. And obviously volunteers can help with that. But let's even kind of zero in. You're going through 2021. We could talk about the pandemic, of course, but in general, you're looking to grow your organization. But what are the main things that you're focusing on right now, regardless of volunteers or not? Like, what are the big initiatives that you're working on, for the rest of 2021 that you want to see happen?
Getting more employers on board. And the reason why I said that is because I have a lot of, I don't want to call them inmates or offenders, but just as involved individuals that have been reaching out to me via mail because they've heard about our organization and what we've done. So
Yeah.
I get an overwhelming response in mail every week from these individuals who are wanting to come through our program. And it's like, okay, I need more employers to be able to service these individuals. So this year alone is mainly trying to get employers, and then also, of course, fundraising.
And we'll talk about fundraising. Don't worry about that. But um, talk about the employees. What types of employers are you focusing around your region? Are these like kind of national corporations? Like what's the type of employment that you're kind of focusing in on?
It's funny that you asked me that because I had a call today with a national employer. He's wanting to partner with us to do some remote work. So basically, what they will be doing is they will be doing remote notary public. So they'll be notarizing different documents virtually. So I said, okay, cool. What do I need to do to lock you in the bag? Because I need you. So we're working out those details now. Mind you, we just talked about that today. So I'm gonna have him wrapped up before the end of the month.
So it's funny that you should say that, Michael. Why, we were just talking about how hard it is to find a notary.
It's hard to find a notary. This is a gap, right? So it's really kind of interesting how these opportunities come up. And, I think it's great that it sounds like you're on there, right? Like doing a lot, like closing these deals and putting people together, which, we talked about hustle in the beginning, like, that's the hustle of like getting an organization off the ground. And I'm curious, Cynetra, like how you delegate to volunteers, like even in that circumstance, right? Like how do you get volunteers that can maybe make the calls to companies, pitch what you do as well, or as close to as you do? How do you think about that? Is there a lot of training there? Is it finding the right people? How does that work well?
Well, vetting out the right people, for
Mm,
one. And
mm.
then we take them through a training. Well, I take them through a training, not we. I take them through a training so that, like you said, that they are able to come to the table the way that I would come to the table. Because, like I stated earlier, I'm getting pulled in other directions. Like other facilities are wanting to talk to me. So it's like I can't do that, as well as trying to bring on more employers, as well as manage all my volunteers. So I need some help with
Mhm.
that so that I can make sure that we do grow. But yeah, they go through a very extensive training. We actually do kind of a mock, uh, kind of a not really a mock interview, but a stimulator type thing, just so I can see how they would answer questions if an employer asks a question. Just to see how they will react to if an employer says, "Nah, I don't know about that population. I've heard such, and
Yeah.
then, that's mainly where we do a lot of, I do a lot of the training with them is how to answer that when someone says that.
So obviously for your work, there was just a book that you took off the shelf and it had this entire training program at the ready, right? I'm obviously being facetious. How did you figure out what needed to go into the training program? Because that's a lot of work.
It is. It is. So I just looked at it as, okay, from the outside looking in. Like if I was an employer and if I wasn't in that if I wasn't in that environment, if I didn't have that experience, what would my mindset be? What type of questions am I gonna have in my head? What type of questions can I ask? And what am I looking for? Because we have to be strategic, because some of these employers now, with everything that's going on, we do have some employers that are like, oh yeah, we want to hire these individuals, but they're hiring for the wrong reasons. So you definitely have to vet out your employers as well. But it does take a lot to get, to do this training and stuff. So yeah, it do.
So, Michael, I want to kick it over to you, kind of on the volunteer side, because you do some volunteer work yourself. Would love to hear a little bit about that and what drew you to the types of work that you are doing.
Yeah, I was thinking back. There's I think I've been volunteering a number of organizations, everything from, hospital volunteering when I was like in high school to I was actually a volunteer firefighter early on.
Did not know that.
Not like full-fledged, but kind of like, helpful assistant firefighter. But that was
save any
awesome
cats, or was it like?
There were. I wouldn't say I was on the front lines, but I was helpful. But that was really interesting and fun and more like community based. Because we lived, grew up in a smaller town, and that's how we had a fire department and an ambulance corps.
Mm-hmm.
I've done definitely some board work, which is all volunteer, obviously, and trying to help in a lot of like education entrepreneurship groups. And then actually my most recent volunteer experience was COVID vaccine deployments. So I've been volunteering with helping get the vaccine out over the last couple months, which has been an amazing, kind of mind-blowing experience. And actually that experience kind of typifies for me, I think, what is magical about volunteering. Like, it was maybe in February that I kind of started at some vaccination sites, and to be there when people are coming in to get their vaccines, and many people are overjoyed and emotional and so thankful, and and there was this real like community vibe. There was this hope feeling in the room, right? As people are like, some people haven't been out, as we all know, some people haven't been outside their houses in a year, kind of, and I think that, I think a lot of times when done right and you get the right people in the right situation, like volunteers end up getting more out of it personally, right? Than the organization, can get out of it. So it's like such a mutually beneficial setup when it's matched correctly, the training's right, it's just when it's structured the right way, and it doesn't have to be overdone. But for me, I've always had that kind of magical experience, and some haven't worked out, by the way, either, but a lot of like really amazing experiences on both sides. And so it's been really, really impactful.
And for anybody watching, if you want to type in the chat, which I am monitoring, as Cynetra knows, she's been an active chatter in this. So if anybody wants to type in like what your favorite volunteer opportunities have been, that would be great. And I do want to actually touch on that, Cynetra, because I imagine that COVID has affected your work. Mm-hmm. So can you walk through that in terms of even just the basics of your work, and then how has that changed the dynamic of working with, like, let's take the AmeriCorps folks in particular. We can use them as kind of the immediate focus for volunteering. How's it been? How are you?
And did that laugh say a lot?
Yeah, that like I'm about to crack laugh. Yes,
we all get that. We're all there.
Yeah.
Well, when COVID happened, AmeriCorps immediately transitioned to working from home. So everybody basically works from home. I supply them with their laptop. They got a phone. We have a phone app, so if anyone calls the office phone, it'll, depending on which extension they get, they will, be able to answer the phone. It has been a challenge because I'm used to interacting with the individuals
Mm-hmm.
versus, I mean, it's okay writing a letter because some of them don't get letters anyway, but I like to have that hands-on experience. Now with the vistas, let me say this: they cannot work, do direct service work, meaning when I would go into the prisons or the jail, they could not do that. Okay, they would have to stay back at the office.
Yeah.
So, but I would take the other volunteers, like from the college students, and I had some high school students that had an interest in coming through and doing a little volunteer work. But yeah, so they cannot do direct service. I want to make sure I put that out there if anybody's watching. um, so yeah, it has definitely been a challenge just trying to transition from going in there basically almost every day, interacting with these individuals to now it's like I can't even see their face.
So how are you trying to communicate with them at this point? Is
Mail.
it mail?
Yeah. Yeah. Our postage and printing budget has went sky high since COVID because that's the only way we can interact with them is by mail.
Mm,
And I'm not going to like have them call me collect because then we get into a whole nother hole.
yeah. So if somebody wants to find a volunteer opportunity with you at this point, or how are they getting in touch with you? Maybe not the services side, but somebody wanting to say, I want to help Cynetra, I want to help this program. How are they reaching out? Is it like through the website? Are they calling you? What are they doing there?
Either or, it should be on the website. We have like a little application on there that they can fill out, and it will come straight to me, or they can call, and talk to me, so we can I can get an understanding of what it is that they want to do, because there's so many different aspects that you can volunteer in. So it just depends on their interests.
So one of the things, here's a little neon tip I'm going to give you.
Oh yeah, let me write this down.
Write it down. So we just interviewed Allison Gerber from Open Books, who's the volunteer and development coordinator. It's a Chicago-based literacy, they have like bookstores, and they collect books to distribute to people either for free or inexpensively. And what they do is they put the volunteer. So we actually we ran a bunch of data because that's what we do. And we said, who is using the volunteer tools of Neon, as well as, because it has volunteer tools. And so then those people who were flagged as a volunteer also are donors. And Open Books was really high. And I'm like, well, I know people there, so let me go reach out and figure out what's going on here. And it turns out that my assumption was that they were turning their volunteers into donors.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, somebody came, and then it's like, can you give? It was actually the opposite. What they were doing is that somebody would donate, and then they put the volunteer application in the bottom of the receipt. And would go, you should check out this opportunity. And it just really converted people.
I'm going to need to know how to do that.
Well, so, okay, I'm going to do the little spoiler surprise early today.
Okay.
Then. So one, Michael and I, it's my birthday month. So, and I spoiled this for you earlier this month, but I did I always do a fundraiser for a cause that I'm passionate about. So this year it was you.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, I got Michael to go donate earlier today.
Okay.
I was super excited to make a donation.
Absolutely. No, he was thrilled. He was
for
thrilled.
sure. Yeah.
Don't beat me up about my receipt email there. I'm still working on that.
I liked it.
It's good. It's good.
It felt personal, and with a good message on how it's going to change things and everything counts. And I thought it was a great, really personalized message. I thought it was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Cool. One of the gifts that Michael gives us and the company gives us is we can volunteer for a client.
Oh, really?
1 day a month at fully paid. So I am at your service. Let's do some fundraising consultation together. All right.
Yes.
So we'll be able to do some stuff together. That's going to be kind of a thing we're going to do for you. So
Cool. I love it. So
yeah.
you're gonna show me how to put that application at the bottom of the receipt, right?
I'm going to do that. We're going to look at your donor data.
I'm not gonna forget about that now.
We're going to use the new beautiful email tools to send out some stuff like.
Really?
Oh yeah.
So I don't have to use Constant Contact anymore?
Nope, you could drop Constant Contact. Sorry, Constant Contact is a partner, but like
I hope they're not watching.
Probably not, but based off of tonight's metrics. But what are you gonna do?
You never know, you know.
You never know. Sorry, Eric. But yeah, no, you could probably drop that in all honesty.
Okay. Well, I'll wait till we work on it before I drop it.
Don't worry about it.
I think it's super interesting as you think about like donors versus volunteers versus advocates, and and the mix between those, right? Not just the overlap, but like the cause and effect, right? I agree, and it's kind of interesting to see the flows because I'm sure it happens each direction, right? So someone likes the organization, wants to donate because for some people, like the money is a donation is the easiest thing for them to do, right? Versus other people that, may not have it at the moment, and donating their time is something that they can do. But as life changes, and I know this, being on the board of an organization, that as we foster more donors and volunteers, it's like at different points in people's lives, they get too busy to volunteer. So, income items change. And so there's like a life cycle, right? And really it's about, and I'm curious, Cynetra, how you think about this, but it's about like just constituents, it's advocates, like people that support your organization, and then not necessarily thinking about them as a donor versus a volunteer. How do you think about that, Cynetra?
I think that's a great idea that they're basically ambassadors for your organization. Just like he was saying, time, talent, and treasure. Maybe you didn't say treasure, but you know what I'm trying to say. That's how I look at them. I don't look at them as a donor. I look at them as ambassadors for the organization because they can go out and tell someone else about what we're doing and say, someone may say, hey, I'm looking to donate to someone in December. Everyone usually gives all their donations in December. And someone who may have donated to us, like let's say in June or sometime before December, and they will say, hey, well, look into this organization right here. And then, they can convert them into an ambassador for us, not a donor, but an ambassador for us. I'm all for it.
And I like thinking of it like that. And even when I was promoting this, and I've been putting up your website for people to check out during this is also being recorded for people to review later too. And you have a good website. I wonder who actually supplies that.
Neon.
Neon.
Yeah,
But you got a lot of like really good facts there too. And I think the impact, like even when I was trying to use LinkedIn, for instance, and tell people about this, some of the data that you were showing about folks who were incarcerated and without these services, they're going to come back. I imagine those are things that you're also training volunteers. You're using that information for donors. So talk about the ways that programming obviously influences the way that you put together your communications to all these different types of folks.
Are you talking about data gathering?
Yeah, I would be interested in that in terms of like where, like how I imagine the prison system is not making it easy for you
No.
for this type of stuff. So actually, let's talk about that reality in terms of the work there. Again, this is an organic conversation too. We don't have to be like, and then tie that back to volunteers. I'm actually just like really interested about the actual work in terms of gathering that data to understand what is happening in the prison system and what was the wonderful term that you used, by the way?
Which one?
About folks who have a relationship with the prison system, but you don't want to say, oh, they've been to jail or something like that.
Oh, justice involved individuals.
Justice involved. That's the term. That's the term. So that's good. So talk about that work and the data gathering that goes into that.
Well, Department of Corrections, like you said, is a bummer to get data from, unless you're able to get it off the website, which they are not always up to date.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is, well, what I do is I do a risk needs assessment. So this assessment will tell me if they're low, medium, or high risk of reoffending. And then I also have another assessment that I do. It's called an employment readiness assessment. So I'm able to use those both assessments to make a judgment on, okay, this person may be medium level of reoffending, but they're scoring high on employment. So if we get them into employment, they will bump down to low level or no indication of reoffending. And I'll just take all that data and then compile it all together, because the systems will allow me to create graphs, or they will compile that data for me in percentages or numbers or whatever. And I just use that and present it to my board and let them see what it is, how we're changing lives. And what we also do is every 6 months, I am contacting these individuals. I'm doing like an update on their case plans to make sure everything is okay. And then we also reassess them again.
That's a lot of data. Like, so is it?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
That's very impressive. I'm almost thinking about how we can,
learn from
automate
you.
all this stuff. That's because to do that all, I'm assuming you're kind of doing that, pre-manually, huh? To pull that stuff in on different people. And are these assessments yours, or are these like, kind of known throughout the, used by multiple organizations, or did you create those?
Now, these assessments are they're created by a separate company, two different companies. One is called Automon. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one. And then the employment readiness, I can't think of their name, but that's a separate assessment. But I also do another assessment. It's called for financial education, to see where they are as far as that goes. Like, meaning, do they even know what a checking account is? Like, do they even know anything about credit? So that's a whole nother assessment as well. So we do
Where
a lot.
is all this stuff? Because that's like 3 to 4 different types of analysis on basically one person. So
Yeah, if you want to know everything about them, you have to do that. I also have another assessment on their criminal thinking. What is their thinking like? What makes them commit a crime?
So when you're doing it, so how do you do the assessments? Walk us through that.
So we just before COVID, I will have my laptop and I'll just ask them questions and they will answer it, and I'll put it in the system while they're sitting there, and it'll give me a score.
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll also give me recommendations on how to help them lower their score. If that makes sense.
So how are you doing it now? Are you doing it through mail now, you said?
No,
Okay.
We're not doing that now. What I'm trying to do is work with the Mississippi Department of Corrections to get it on tablets, so that I can work with them on tablets. But I'm getting a little resistance on that, so we may have to do virtual, like what we're doing now. Do a virtual interview. However, the jails, they're starting to allow us to go in. So I was on a call with her today. So we have to go back through and do our yearly orientation training that we have to do. And then I'll be able to go back in and it'll be back in person.
Okay. Okay. So things are coming. So yeah, actually, here's the thing. And Michael, of course, jump in if you have any other thoughts too, but I actually am interested because I see you're very active on LinkedIn. You're doing you're doing, but you're also talking very much about the day and the work and things that you're doing. So what's a typical day look like for you? And then when are you slotting in, like, oh yeah, and I got to go tell these AmeriCorps people what they're supposed to do? like walk us through that, because like I actually interested in terms of what you just described is very labor intensive, it sounds like, but in many ways you have to have that conversation. You need to have that. You can't just like, look at somebody and know all that. You have to talk to them.
Mhm.
So that takes time. So what's your day like?
Well, usually I start the day off with a meeting with my AmeriCorps members and my volunteers.
Okay, you kick it off with the volunteers. There you go.
Yes, yes. So I start off with a meeting with them, just to kind of see. So what happens with AmeriCorps, you have to create something called a VAD, a Vista Assignment Description, and they're supposed to go through this description, followed by it, as far as what their daily activities is. It tells them in there what they're supposed to do day by day. So in the mornings, every morning, I have a meeting with them to see if they have any questions. Is there anything that needs to be revised, like before COVID happened? Of course, COVID happened, and then we did have to revise some things because we were going to meet some people in person. For instance, like my public relations person, she had meetings to meet with members of the media, but she wasn't able to do that because COVID happened. So we had to revise that. So those are some of the things that we do during our meeting. It's about an hour long because I have 3 vistas. So 3 vistas and 2 volunteers. So I have 5 people under me. But I will also say that AmeriCorps reached out to me and they want me to add 5 more vistas
Wow.
to my program.
Is that good or bad for you?
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
More people. More help, right? More help.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a good thing.
I'm kind of blown away because as I hear you talking, I'm like thinking about all the different things that your organization really does, like which could be 3 or 4 organizations in its own right. You know, you have one that's kind of one piece of this is kind of navigating the judicial system, and and then another piece is sounds like it's kind of like education and training, and then you have another piece that's job placement, and it's kind of miraculous how you can do that with such a small group, right?
How many staff do you have?
And it's the 3 vistas and
Yeah.
then 2 volunteers, so it's 5. And then Vista wants me to add on 5 more individuals by September.
And then are you the only paid employee?
I mean, yeah, if I get some money, I can pay some other people. I mean, AmeriCorps, they get paid too now.
That's true. That is true. They could be counted as that too.
Well, it's not really paid. Let me correct that. It's stipend, just in case somebody's watching.
Yeah.
Because you never know.
Huh. I mean, I oversaw poorly, in my opinion, a Vista program when I was at one of my jobs.
Really?
Yeah. So my second job was as a was an outreach coordinator for an art studio for adults with developmental disabilities.
Yeah.
In Chicago, and we had some Vista students, and actually that does connect to my favorite volunteer memory, definitely working. I think I created another new one this past weekend that I'll talk about, but like the one when I was in Chicago, the corporate volunteers would come in and it would be like, Target's going to send you 50 people. What are you doing with them?
Oh, wow.
And so it was an art studio, so we did a big mural in the art studio that's still there. And so that was pretty cool because we had the artist design them, and then the actual volunteers painted everything out. But over the weekend where I live, I got bamboozled into doing a volunteer activity that my wife's like, we're going to help Amy, our friend Amy. And I'm like, okay. And turns out she's like, do we have a shovel? And do you have a rake? And I'm like, well, yeah, we got to bring them. And we're bringing the kids. So we went down to the local Jewish Community Center, the JCC, and they're building a playground. And so I helped build a playground on Sunday, which was kind of wild to see happen. It was pretty cool.
Sometimes, Tim, you got to get your hands dirty when it comes to volunteering.
I did. I know these right? soft hands. No. Yeah, well, and there was like a parkitect and everything, but just all the different elements. Like every single organization has so many logistics. Like that's what I think that people forget, that like nonprofits are still like logistical beings at their core, and there's so many things that you have to like put in place to make this happen, and you have to do it like what other industry, especially one that employs 10% of people in the United States, like other than internships, Michael, which like we don't really do, right? Like, because it can go either way with internships, but like volunteers are so vital to the nonprofit industry versus other ones. Like, it's fascinating to see just how much, like, I don't even like to call it free labor because
Right.
folks are like putting their heart and soul into this, and there's a lot of things that they're also getting out of it too. Like, Michael, when you're doing your work, what is the most satisfying elements of volunteering to you?
Well, I mean, I think it's, for me personally, I think it's like, when you can kind of see the impact.
Yeah.
I mean, not unlike a, for-profit job, right? Like, when you can kind of see and feel the impact of the work you're putting in, and it doesn't have to be immediate, right? It could be like some of these things are really hard and they take a long time, but like when you were involved in it and you can connect what you're doing to the outcome, right? And maybe placing someone in a job and changing their life, right? As I'm sure Cynetra, your success cases and the like impact to people's lives. I mean, being involved in that, I would think brings a lot of joy and satisfaction to the people that help along those lines. So that's when we talk about when I'm on the board of an organization called Build, and we do kind of youth entrepreneurship for underserved communities, right? Where kids that aren't getting a great shot in life can leverage some tools around entrepreneurship within, kind of like dilapidated school systems to get them inspired to go out and do more. And, when you see, and, some of the volunteer work is not super glorious stuff, but when you get to see a kid get into college because he got inspired by this, and he wasn't planning on doing that, but then it kind of changed his life. I mean, that makes it all worthwhile, right? So that's where I think you get as much as you give, right? If it's set up in the right way, and you're set up with the right cause.
Yeah.
That's how I think about it. I mean, the other thing that we didn't get to yet, but we probably should talk about is the money side, right? So Cynetra, you said, if you had more, the question I always think about is like, how could you increase your impact if you were able to scale donations? And, a lot of times volunteers are a great way to do that, but there's a little bit of a pickle I find with like organizations where it's kind of chicken and egg, right? A lot of times, like, okay, if I had a grant writer, Tim's got some great experience there. If I had a grant writer, then I could be, I could get a shot at a lot more grants that could then allow me to do a lot of these things. Or you can use that same example with corporate donors or individual donors or whatever, however you think of it. But like, it's kind of hard because if you don't have the resources to put the people in place to start making those asks and get the message out, then you kind of get stuck, right, in a certain way. How have you thought about that, Cynetra? How have you thought about leveraging volunteers for fundraising in any kind of respect?
Well, one of my vistas, her title is capacity building. So that's what she's looking for. She's looking for volunteers. She's looking for grants that we can apply for. She's looking for ways that we are able to get more individual donors. And let me say this, being a semi-new organization, I'm kind of competing with all the bigger organizations.
Yep.
When it comes to grants and corporations, even that I've noticed with the individual donors, because they're like, well, we're already giving to such and such and such and such. And I'm like, well, I'm just asking for $10, So, that can be a little bit of a pushback as well. But that's her goal. That's her goal. That's what her VAD says, that she is to build our capacity.
Well, and you're at a critical moment because you're at almost that 5-year mark.
Yeah.
Of most organizations are going to run into trouble at that point. So that's important. And two, I mean, we have to address the reality. A lot of studies are showing a new study just showed Black-led organizations are going to typically receive less grant money, right?
Yeah.
So you're small, you're new.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm African American led.
So
Yeah, I know. I know.
like and this is a crappy reality. And this is one of the reasons why, we want to talk about this type of stuff and bring it out into the open, because one, it's wrong. And two, how can we have a larger conversation on resource allocation? Because what you're doing is so important to ensuring that people can have a wonderful life, and that's important, and you're making an impact. So I mean, look, if I can make my own little difference in that, like, I'm thrilled about that. But I think the real goal is what Michael's talking about, which is like pure sustainability, and you're not worrying about how you're going to be doing things.
Yeah.
And I think we talked a lot about grants internally, right? With internally and some of our great partners like Flux.
Yep.
And we always talk about it as like it's kind of a really inefficient market. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of grants out there that may be like perfect for your organization, right? And they're actually looking for you, and you're looking for them, but there's not like a great way to kind of see all those things, connect all those things, and it takes work. That's it. It takes like you're doing, right? Like it takes people on the ground going through all of all these things, looking at the foundations, but like it's really tricky. But like when you make those connections, it's like it's really important.
28%, according to the new Nonprofit Pro leadership study in 2021, 28% of leaders like you, Cynetra, are citing frustration with donors not even knowing that they exist as the biggest item. And gosh, Mike, it makes me want to remember if we have a giving day down in Mississippi. Actually, no,
if you did, I would be a part of it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, maybe we need to go make one.
I was thinking about that too. That Giving Day is such kind of an interesting way that most people think of them as more money fundraising, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But Arizona Gives that just ran a week and a half ago, $7 million raised in a day, amazing. But maybe even more amazing, 60,000 hours of volunteer hours pledged by, I think, like 1,500 volunteers.
1,500. I'm counting the number. You made me go look at the website, Mike.
I looked at it the other day.
1,500, 1,535 people pledged volunteer hours to all these different nonprofits.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's not a normal way that you would think about, or an organization would think about, like, how do I get more volunteers, or even like specialized skills, right? Because it's not just about the number of people, like, I mean, going back to the grant writing, like if you're good at grant writing, Tim, I want to keep
like, okay. I guess I know what I'll be doing, but
that's what you should use Tim's volunteer hours for. Have him write some grants for you.
Michael, I don't know if I was actually a good grant writer.
Tim, I'm assuming you were the best. So if you're good, but if you get someone that's really good at that, they're going to get a lot more yeses than nos, right? Like, and similar with, different types of things, reaching out to corporations, right? Like, it's not like you need, like, you look for vast amounts of experience in certain types of volunteers, but like there's a sentiment, there's a personality type, there's a skill set, right? And I think that's kind of important as we think about like how to best leverage volunteers, how to best look for them and get kind of the right matches that then can open up more opportunity for the organization, right? More capacity, as we say, for the organization.
Right.
So, I mean, this also does come into one of the, I talked to a fantastic consultant earlier today from Gladiator Consulting and out of St. Louis, Rachel, and she's someone who strongly believes in the idea of community-centered fundraising. Now, here's the thing. The two of you nod your heads and you're like, oh, no, that sounds great. Turns out that there's this weird war happening on Twitter basically, between traditional fundraising consultants and community-centered fundraising folks. And I wanted to kind of unpack that with her, because she says, I'm a community-centered fundraiser, but then she has lots of great impact metrics and data on what she's raised for organizations. And the reality is that it comes back to donor-centered people are like, we should celebrate the role of the donor, and we should think that they're really great. Yet the criticism there is the power that especially large donors and funders, grant funders in particular, that efficiency of the marketplace, Michael, that's basically what is the main critique in many ways, is that there's too many walls, too many gatekeeping, too much stuff. And so it's really interesting to think about this, because in many ways, Cynetra, the donors shouldn't think of you as like, well, I'm either going to give to them or her.
Mhm.
A true community-centered approach is going to say, all of these things interconnect. She's helping with this. This organization's helping with, food desert, items, or looking at the justice system before they even get into it. All of these things interconnect in that ecosystem in a way. And a community-centered approach says we have to look at all these things together. That was kind of the big learning experience that I had today about how to best think about that. And I think there's something to be said there, because Giving Days, we talked about Giving Days because she's in St. Louis, and she's like, it's such a great thing because it actually helps so many even small nonprofits grow. So one, I got to do some research on Mississippi.
Okay.
Sounds like
We're launching a Giving Day. We gotta
go launch it. Cynetra, talk about the philanthropic culture in Mississippi, actually.
Slim to none.
Why do you think that is?
Well, we're one of the poorest states in the United States. So the money that people get, they're too busy trying to survive and stay in their, keep it in their households.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have some wealthy people here, but they're mainly in like Germantown, Tennessee and all of that. But I mean, I think there is some here in Mississippi, but majority of the people here in Mississippi are poor. I mean, let's just face it. Even the foundations, like some of the community foundations, they're having a hard time getting funding. But then there is one, they get a lot of funding because they have that access to those individuals that have that money. But then again, they have their set of organizations that they give to. I tried to apply and I got denied.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, there's probably some stats on this, Tim. You probably know them, but like people give locally, right? Like people a lot of times, but like that's not always the case, right? Like I think people tend to give locally because of like networks of people they know and people that are associated with different things and people that are on boards are helping out. But then there's like really more of like cause-based movements.
Yeah.
Right? Like people are really passionate about prison reform, right? And people are really passionate about different things. And then there are ways that, we can think about how do we get to those like cause-based champions regardless of where they live. They could live outside the country, right? It's harder to get to, but like, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the state. And I think that's more of a legacy view on like how people should donate and how they give, right?
So I do have some quick data off the top of my head. Unfortunately, not Mississippi based right now. We could turn it around actually, and I actually would want to. We analyzed with a consultant partner, Suhaila Wahid, from Giving Geeks. She's in Austin. So we did Texas. And so we looked at Texas giving through the pandemic. And it turned out that while the majority of people who are writing checks were giving in-state, about 67%, I think, were giving in-state. The vast majority of, and Michael, just so you knew, we actually analyzed IP addresses to properly flag, even if we didn't have an address on file for them, where they were actually giving from. Adam is a genius. And so...
he is a genius. Anonymized, that's allowed, yeah.
Absolutely anonymized. We don't know who anybody was. Just stating that for the record. That's my AmeriCorps version, basically, Cynetra. So to Michael's point, though, the vast majority of Texans giving online were not giving in Texas. In fact, there was one religious specific nonprofit in Alabama that drove it to be the top receiving state of Texans in terms of volume. One nonprofit got 40,000 Texans to give to it. So depending on the reach and mission, like, people respond. And you've seen this. We saw this with bail bond items that happened during the George Floyd protests. You know, Minnesota's bail bond went from, like, they were doing, I don't know, maybe I don't even want to say, it went from, like, oh, okay, this is nice, to, wow, we suddenly have like $45 million.
Wow.
And so it's possible. It's definitely possible to ignite that change. And let's get to work.
Yeah, I was just sitting there thinking, like, okay, that's all fine and dandy, but how do a person like me reach out to other people that's outside of the state, you know?
Well, I have one volunteer opportunity day a month that I would be glad to do that for you, and we can think, well, and realistically, what I would want to do is a needs assessment.
Yeah.
I'm not, but by the way, we're not immediately going to go on some goose chase for money outside the state.
Oh,
like,
yeah, I know.
You know, that sounds all dandy, but, like, come on. And
Right,
so,
yeah.
yeah, so we're actually coming to our hour mark. No chats. Can I get one chat for somebody watching, please? Can I get, like, one, please? Come
They're
on.
all watching, you know.
They're all enthralled. No, you know, we just had a wonderful product marketing person come on board who is going to make this, like thousands of people are going to watch this. So,
Right.
so I would love, so I'm going to actually do a little spotlight on our guests again, and I want people to check out Cynetra's website, msreentry.org, right here on the screen. Go ahead and donate. Go ahead and donate. Keep my birthday fundraiser going. My brother texted me and he's like, do you want to, he texted me, he said, do you want to get money for craft beer? Zach York, we love you, Tim. We love you, Tim. No, that's not Zach. Thank you for that. But, like,
hey, we'll take any support we can get.
Yeah.
Zach, say you love Michael Farb. So,
Cynetra, really.
so no, but he said, my brother even said, like, do you want money for craft brewery, a charity, or split it? And I was like, charity. So there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Any Mike, I want to hear from you, and then Cynetra, you're going to have the final word.
No, I want to commend Cynetra. I'm kind of inspired, and just like the impact you're driving, your passion, your drive, you're doing a lot with, kind of on your own shoulders. So, I mean, congratulations. And we want to help as much as we possibly can. So, so congrats, and let's keep pushing. You're doing great work, and we're happy to help and support any way we can.
Thank you. I'm glad that you guys allowed me to come on, Tim. Woo-hoo. Oh, you didn't talk about how we became so friendly.
Oh, I mean,
you know.
we just, I mean, we kind of hit it off on the event at Generosity Exchange.
Yeah.
Which is going to be really awesome this year, I gotta say.
Again? Okay.
Well, the platform's not going to crash, for one thing. And then no, we have another great. So did you remember when Voulez presented? Obviously, Michael, you did. So
Awesome.
Well, so Denise is back.
Okay.
And then she actually helps source. We're gonna kind of be doing. I'm gonna be honest. I want her to always just interview another, like, keynote speaker. Like, that's kind of the format. And I think it's a lot more interesting to have those multiple voices. So she helped find a disability rights activist called Amani Barbaran, who's going to be joining us. And so Crutches and Spice is her like website, like crutchesandspice.com. So really, really cool stuff there. But yeah, we hit it off there, and then it was just like you started coming to these, and then we started connecting on LinkedIn too.
Yeah.
And
Like
then
I get a lot of action on LinkedIn. I don't know. I barely get action on Facebook. I get a little action on Instagram, but mainly like when I'm trying to build, of course, business relationship is LinkedIn. Yeah.
LinkedIn is the, in my opinion, especially for you, the best investment that you can make.
Okay.
Like
it's a great tool.
It's a great tool. I think that Facebook is great, especially given that we are integrating with Facebook fundraisers later this summer. So thumbs up on some Facebook items, but for nonprofit stuff, the page algorithms are getting a little frustrating. For the fundraisers element, I think it's solid, but I think LinkedIn is really, really good. Instagram is good, and actually one of the founders of our peer-to-peer platform, a guy named Joe McGee, actually just Instagrammed me he's like, check this out, it's pretty slick. And it was like their Instagram donation stuff is actually really nice for organizations now. So that might be something to explore. It's really easy to put up like a story and things like that. But you don't want to go chasing windmills with this type of stuff. If you can slam out a grant, then that might be the way to go.
Grant writing, always back to grant writing.
I think he's trying to suggest something here.
Maybe.
Well, I just want to make sure, Cynetra, you put Tim to work. Because
don't worry.
I'm not doing enough at Neon. So
I'll have my whip out for the full 8 hours. It's 8 hours, right, Tim?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll take the day. I need to take a day. So we could do something nice virtually, and then eventually, like I told you, I want to come down.
You're going to come down to the South? Yeah, to get some of this good Southern food.
Oh,
man.
The stuff in upstate New York is not the creme de la creme of cuisine. Let's just say that. So.
Yeah. Okay, we'll put a few pounds on you down here.
There you go. I'm already. That's why I hadn't had a drink tonight. So. Okay, so we'll end on that. So thank you so much to both of you for spending the time with me tonight. It's great to have thought leaders like both of you. I want to make that very clear that both of you are leaders that I admire greatly, and dare I say it, changemakers. So thank you for coming to the Changemakers. Thank you for watching. I'm going to put that up on the thing, and we'll bid you adieu, folks. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for chatting, Zach, for being up. So have a good